Namaste and welcome to Live, Love, Engage. I am Gloria Grace Rand, and today we're going to be talking about business. We're going to be talking about doing good. We're going to be talking about how to eat right, I think, and be healthy too, because our guest on the show today is Thom King, and he is an entrepreneur who also deals with food, but I'll get more into that in a moment. But first, I would just like to welcome you to the program, Thom.
Thank you so much, Gloria, and namaste. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be beautiful and enriching.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Mr. King, he is part CEO, part personal development wonk, and part biohacker info geek. That's quite a combination. Self-confessed serial entrepreneur and who really believes in not necessarily the traditional definition of success as just being about money, but really about doing good. And I think that's a really good way to be and how to approach business. His company has been built around the simple principle of do the right thing. And for about the last, I guess, over 20 years now, his personal passion for food and concern about the explosion of metabolic disease led him to found Steviva Brands. I'm guessing that might be how you pronounce it.
Yep, that's exactly correct.
Okay, because I have a feeling, because I think I know where that name came from. Now known as Icon Foods, with a mission to help food manufacturers replace unhealthy sugars in their products with natural options. And he's, after spending 20 years of R&D work, he's helped hundreds of manufacturers improve the quality of their products. And now he's got a passion for food and optimal health, which have intersected with his embrace of a ketogenic diet, which is all around low carbs and high fats. So I was really impressed in reading about what you've been doing. And yeah, I was gathering the Steviva came from stevia. Is that?
It did. That's kind of, yeah, that was sort of I would say the catalyst for me starting this whole thing. It's like, it's interesting because you go through life and these things, that pop up in front of you or, that inspire you to do more. That came to me in like, must have been the late 80s, early 90s when I ran into this gentleman named Jim May, who had just come back from Paraguay. And he had this ominous like jar of like greenish black paste. And he said, "Hey, you should try this." I'm like, okay. And so I tried it and I was like, whoa. It had a real strong herbal taste to it, almost like licorice, but it was about 25 times sweeter than sugar. It was really, really sweet.
Wow.
And I was like, well, is that sugar? How come it's sweet? And that is when the rabbit hole opened up. And after that, I was just like, well, how can something be sweet and not be sugar? And that's when I got into the science. And yeah, it was quite a rabbit hole.
No. And so I see that like your company, you actually sell like a lot of natural sweeteners like that, right?
Yeah, that's what we do. So I started the brand Steviva Brands, and that was a consumer brand, and it's still a consumer brand. I think we're in like 2,000-3,000 stores across the United States and Whole Foods. And so, I mean, my intention that I set was let's build a consumer brand, and then let's parlay that consumer brand equity into an ingredient company. And so that's kind of what happened. We still have Steviva Brands. It's sort of our legacy. And then, that spawned Icon Foods, and we're a food ingredient company. And so, I do formulations for thousands of different companies on taking their products and reducing the sugar in them. And out of it, they buy ingredients from us, sweeteners and sweetening systems, like a combination of different sweeteners, that, perform functions, in like frozen desserts and baked goods and stuff. So it's gotten pretty sciencey.
Hmm. Oh, very cool. Are there any particular, like well-known brands that we would know about, or
Oh yeah, definitely,
you're allowed to say?
definitely.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So part of my role here as a food scientist is that when I start working on somebody's project, I have to sign like a bunch of non-disclosure
Okay,
agreements.
I had a
And
feeling.
so because they don't want people to know their secrets, right?
Gotcha.
So yeah, so I guess I'm that secret behind a lot of the brands that you would see on shelves that, say no added sugars or,
Gotcha.
naturally sweetened without sugar. So
Right.
when you look at those, like a lot of times I'm sort of the mysterious person behind that.
Well, very cool. Well, what do you love about your business? I mean, what is
That's a
sort of a favorite thing that you have that you like about it?
Yeah, that would be my why. And so, like, why do I do this? And,
Yeah.
I can honestly tell you that long ago it stopped being about money and started being more about contribution. So, I think that it's like, I think that the reason, I would say my why behind this is as having a direct impact, like having a direct impact on, on doing something good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like changing people's lives. Like I wrote a book about four years ago, called Guy Gone Keto, and it was sort of like me going down this lifestyle change of adopting a ketogenic lifestyle. And I would say that it's all of it's interconnected, with the sweeteners and keto and stuff like that. But the real rewarding thing is when I run into consumers that use our products or use one of our customers' products,
Mm-hmm.
and they have real results from it. Like, well, I was on medication for diabetes and, I started eating better. I started following keto. I cut back my sugars and now I don't have to take medication anymore. Or
Yeah.
people that have like, I've struggled with weight my whole life, and I finally am at a weight where I feel like I can love myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that there's enough love and grace in the world. And so if you can do a small little piece, like I'm not saying I have the answers to it,
Right.
but if
Yeah.
you even just do a small piece and you see somebody all of a sudden, be able to lean into a little more self-acceptance, and understand that path, uh, I'd say that that's affecting good change. And I would say that is my entire reason.
Well, that is a good reason for sure to be able
Thanks.
to do that. I wish there were more people like you, and
Oh,
perhaps
thank
maybe
you.
there are. I think in a way, because I had talked with a gentleman earlier this year, and who travels a lot in his
Mhm.
business, and actually traveled in China a lot, and was dealing with companies over there, learning principles that we have here, but more of that. I guess I wouldn't say holistic, but something that is more. It's just not just about money. It really is about how to actually give back, and to be in it for the good of their clients, good of the
Mhm.
community at large, and so I think it's a good thing to do. Is Have there been any particular challenges? Because I know even just a regular business, or even certainly I'm a solopreneur, and I know I've had enough challenges growing my own business. What are some challenges that you have faced in your journey, especially being a serial entrepreneur? So I imagine you a few companies over the years.
Yeah, I would have to say that every day is a challenge, and every day there's new challenges presented in front of me, like every single day.
Mm.
So, it depends on, I suppose it depends on how somebody really um, faces challenges.
Mm.
Like I've I've tried to have a mindset and shift my mindset towards embracing challenges. Like when a challenge comes to me, I'm like, good, this gives me an opportunity to learn. It gives me an opportunity to do better.
Right.
There's so many challenges. And I think that it's like, when I think about the challenges I face, it just really doesn't seem important at all. Like, I
Mm.
think that it's thinking of the challenges that all people are facing. Particularly right now. I
Yeah.
mean, it's I can't even imagine a more challenging time in my life. And it's interesting because, you know, I have people that work for me that are like, you know, a couple generations younger than me.
Mm.
And they're just like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Was it like this back in the day? And I'm like, what do you mean by back in the day? Like, not that old. But you know, it's just like when I look at things, you know, the state of everything, it seems like, it's like, yeah, I mean, there's so many challenges. There's so many challenges, and that it doesn't even make like my challenges important at all. It's like, I might have a piece of equipment that breaks down. Okay, good. Let's fix it. Let's make it better. Let's find out why it broke. But I mean, I would rather just really, you know, lean into more about like the compassion for every single person that's suffering right now, or every single person that's encountering challenges. You know, the thing that gets me through challenges, I think, is my my commitment and my belief to practicing stoicism, you know, and understanding that everything is temporary. Like every single thing is temporary. Things that are joyful, things that are challenging, those are all temporary things. And even we are temporary. So I think that if in every challenging situation, that's, you know, that's what I look at. I mean, we had fires here, and these were crazy fires. And I used to live in California, which is having some even crazier fires, but we had some pretty crazy fires where we had, like, there was really not very much sunlight in our city for almost 2 weeks. And people were just, you know, they were freaking out. And it's like, oh my God, these are dark, dark times. And yeah, they were dark times. But the thing is that, you know, I love the saying, it's like, you don't know how dark it can get until you know how dark it can get. And then that's when you truly can see the light. And it's just temporary. And so now the skies are blue again, you know, and there's no smoke, but it's just the temporary nature of every challenge. And it's like, get up, dust yourself off, recalibrate, re-engage, you know, and beat the challenge down, and don't let the challenge beat you down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as we're recording this, it's the beginning of October, and you had mentioned that you are in Oregon. So, yeah, I can only imagine, you know, and I can't, because I thankfully we do have fires here in Florida occasionally, but never to the degree that you've had out west, and certainly not like this year. It was unprecedented in an unprecedented year. I mean, 2020, who would have, nobody would have, you know, even maybe a screenwriter possibly might have come up with, you know, this amazing confluence of these crazy things that have happened all year long. How did your company even, how have you been managing the pandemic in particular? You know, were you, you know, dealing with having a lot of employees working from home and things like that?
We've done very well. And so we were considered an essential company because we're a food manufacturer. So we could have employees come back. We did have our production people come back immediately, but we did put in certain protocols, masks, sanitation, and also, I mean, we also instituted what's called COVID pay. So we gave them an increase in pay, a significant increase in pay for their promise that they would practice social distancing and basically after work just go home, spend time with their families and stuff like that. We haven't had a single incident of COVID in our building, but we still follow very strict protocols. Like if you're coming into the building, you have to have your temperature taken. We're wearing masks. We're practicing social distancing. You know, we're sanitizing. So we were not affected by it monetarily. I mean, our costs went up because we were paying people more money, but our sales also went up, and we were able to support, you know, our food manufacturers that could get, you know, that could get food to people. So I think that a lot of people that were in the service industry, you know, restaurants and such, really suffered. But, you know, if you can get to a restaurant, don't forget to tip, and tip big, because those people are putting their lives on the line every single day.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we still aren't. My husband and I, especially my husband, is sort of a health risk, so we're still not dining in. But when we do order pickup or delivery, yeah, I make sure that we tip them because ordinarily we would be eating there because we do like to eat
Right.
out.
Yeah.
Normally we would be doing that. So yeah, it's good to take care of those people for sure. Um, I asked you a little bit about challenges, but have there been any, and maybe not, maybe you've made some of these, or maybe you've just seen other people. What would you say are some of the common mistakes that entrepreneurs make maybe when starting up a business?
Not having a plan,
Mm.
because I mean, as you said, I'm a self-confessed serial entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that means. I've started a lot of businesses. I have failed far more times than I've been successful.
Mm.
Um, my successes have been pretty great. And so I'm hoping that it makes up for all my failures.
Sure.
But I would say that if somebody's looking to start a business, you start with a plan. And I mean, plans, I would say that a plan, the roots of the plan are planted through your intention,
Mm.
right? So you set an intention and you create this outcome, like you want this outcome, and then you create an action plan around it, meaning step A, step B to step C, and so on and so forth.
Mm.
And you make it very detailed, right? Like a very detailed action plan with quantifiable dates, like if you're starting a business, like I will have my logo done by, November 15th, 2001. I will, and what are the steps that you need to take? Contact a graphic artist, review designs, things like that. So if you plan your work and work your plan,
Mm-hmm.
you will be successful most of the time. So not everything's a good idea, because I've had ideas that are like, this is the best idea ever. And then in the end, it's like, this was the worst idea ever. So you have to understand when to pivot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you find something and you're beating your head against the wall, and it might be time for you to pivot. But the thing is also releasing attachment. So if you have this attachment to the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
and outcomes that people have, like these huge expectations,
Yeah.
right? Like expectations live in our head, and it's like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great, I'm gonna retire by the time I'm 50. um Let go of expectations. Like expectations are future thinking.
Yeah.
And it's like it steals the greatest thing that you've got, like, which is right now, this very moment. If you have expectations and you're living it in the future, you're just giving away this amazing gift that it's like being present. So let go of your expectations, let go of the outcome, follow your action plan, and analyze the data.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is the data, I mean, does it show that you're moving in a favorable direction? If yes, continue. If it shows that you're not moving in a favorable direction, tweak your action plan.
Mm-hmm.
Continually massage that action plan to get you to the outcome. If you don't hit the outcome, reanalyze the outcome. Like, is this really what you wanted? And I would say if you use that method, your chances of success will greatly increase, but nothing's guaranteed. Don't
Yeah.
give up.
Yeah. But I think sometimes people do get confused though, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like on the one hand, you're saying, well, you've got to have a plan because you want to create something.
Sure.
But at the other time, you're like, well, but don't have any expectations. So how do you reconcile that? Because, let's
That's a
say,
good question.
because it's like you do want to have a goal, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay, so you release your attachment
Mm.
to the expectation. You release your attachment to the outcome. Okay, so the outcome is going to be the natural function of working an effective action plan.
Mm.
And that's the thing, because if you cling too tightly to that outcome and you don't hit that outcome, it's going to lead to disappointment. It's going to lead to becoming disenchanted with your goals and stuff. And it's just showing yourself grace.
Mm.
And, the things that we cling to end up controlling us, and it's like, if you can let go and not cling to a particular outcome, but set your intention, work your action plan, release your attachment to the outcome, and see what happens.
Yeah.
And if you don't get to the desired location, quit. So I'm not saying just like, don't have any outcomes, don't have an outcome that you're going to desire. Yeah, you must have an outcome that you want to reach, right? That's like getting in your boat and saying, okay, start the motor, and you just go. And it's like, well, where are you going?
Yeah.
Where are you going? Well, I'm going over here. It's like, okay, so how are you going to get there? You got to set your, you got to navigate this. And the way you navigate anything, and this isn't just in business, this is in life. The way you navigate anything is like create an action plan. And I've had people like, oh, I don't know how to do an action plan. It's like, you do action plans every day. You just do them unconsciously, right?
That's
so
true.
Like you're watching TV, and it's like, if you're watching the football game or something like that, and it's like, okay, you set an intention. I think I want a cold beer and a snack. Okay. While you're sitting watching TV, and you're like, okay, so I'm going to get up off the couch. I'm going to walk over to the fridge. I'm going to open the fridge, crack it open, get a sandwich. And I'm going to bring it back to the couch. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to resume watching my football team. Right.
Yep.
So the outcome is I want a snack and a beer, but your action plan were those steps. So all you have to do is write it down, because I think a goal not written down is just a good intention. And well, we know where good intentions can take us.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, there's some other quote about that too. I
my mother used to say. I'm a walking cliche.
Yeah. But you mentioned at the very beginning a little bit about your why. Now, how important is it to have a why in business?
It's everything to me. I mean, some people, it really depends. It's all about values, like if a person is attached to their values, their why is probably going to be more important to them. If somebody's why is, I want to make a lot of money. I mean, you can make a lot of money, but it doesn't mean you're going to be happy. It doesn't even it doesn't mean you're going to be fulfilled. It doesn't mean you're going to have friends. It doesn't mean that your family's still going to love you. It doesn't mean that you're going to have amazing pets and relationships and stuff like that. So it's like, it's like sitting down and knowing your why, like why you exist, like what do you want? And it's like, if you really break it down and you start writing it down, right? What do I want? Well, I want to be happy. I want to be healthy. I want longevity. I want self-acceptance, like you just start writing that stuff down, and you're going to find that 90% of people that start writing these things down, that money is like the bottom of the list. And if you even peel away the layer more and you're like, well, okay, so how come you want money? Why? What's your why behind money? Okay, I want security. I want power. I want things, but if you start peeling it all away, it's like, you don't really want money. Money's paper, what they call it, filthy lucre. Yeah. It's just, it's just paper. Why do you want that paper? Yeah. Because it's going to give you freedom, because it's going to give you, it's going to give you material things that are going to help you feel safe or secure. So go back to your list and say, no, I don't want money. I want security. I want to feel safe. And then I think if you really peel away the layer even further, it's like, well, money is not going to make you feel secure or safe. Maybe what you need to work on is self-acceptance. Maybe what you need to do is work on a network of good friends that support you. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's all kinds of ways to be able to survive, even on, not a lot of money. And you can still be happy. And frankly, there are people who do this all over the world. They may not have the same lifestyle that we do here in the United States, perhaps, but they're certainly happy, even if they don't have a ton of money by our standards. One thing I wanted to ask you about, because I appreciate your definition or explaining the why. What would be, what have you found are some good habits and that an entrepreneur needs maybe to cultivate, especially even around mindset? Because I know I have found that as a marketer and being in business so long, that I know one of the main reasons why maybe I haven't had as much success long-term as I had intended is because I had to work through a lot of mindset stuff. I was dealing with a lot of things from other people's beliefs about money and business in particular that I sort of took on and assumed as my own. So I've been unpacking now. But so I'm curious to know, you've been in business a long time, much longer than I have. I've only been an entrepreneur for 10 years now, or 11 years.
Congratulations.
Thanks. It's, I'm still plugging away at it.
Me too.
I'm committed.
Me too.
I'm committed to it because I definitely like the idea now of being more in control of my own destiny.
Sure.
And with the good and the bad that comes along with that. But what have you found that are some, like I said, maybe some key habits or key ways of looking at things, thinking about things? I know you've mentioned a little bit, I think, already, but is there anything else that would be helpful for someone, whether they're just starting a business or maybe they've been in business for a while and would like to move up a little bit better and doing a little bit better in what they're doing?
This is my favorite question.
Okay.
So when I get up in the morning, what I do is I make a conscious effort of how am I going to make today my masterpiece. So I would say for every person, and it doesn't matter if you're a business owner, it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter if you are working on a production line. It's like setting the stage for what you want your day to be. It's key. And that involves what I call putting your oxygen mask on. Okay. So, when you're on a plane and they're like, hey, make sure you put your oxygen mask on first, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to take care of your kid. Right. So put your mask on first. I put my mask on first. And, you know what? It's funny because my sister kind of does the same thing. And my sister, Gina King, amazing individual. She goes through this ritual in the morning of putting her shield on. So she puts her armor and her shield on. And I love when she talks about it because it's just beautiful. I don't put my armor and shield on. But what I do is I have what's called my hour of power. So I get up very early in the morning. And I think that if you're going to be successful, get up a couple hours early. Get up early and have that time for yourself. Create that hour of power. So right when I get up, the first thing I do, coffee. After my coffee, I journal. I journal every single day. Like journaling is my thing. Like I will not get up from the table until I have an 8.5 by 11 sheet filled.
Wow.
So I have volumes of this. And what you do in that journal, that's your map. That's your map of the day. And the first thing you do is you acknowledge the things that you're grateful for. Like, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for this amazing life that I have. I'm grateful for whatever this great mystery or source of all things that runs through all matter, that connects us all to the universe and back to source, whatever that is. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but you can look and see there's more that we don't understand, infinitely more than we don't understand than what we do understand.
Right.
And acknowledge that and have gratitude for this rare, super rare, sacred gift of this life that you have, and be grateful for the people that love you. Be grateful for the things that you have, be grateful for even the smallest things. Like sometimes while I'm writing, a gentle breeze will like catch the back of my neck, and it's like being present. It's like, be grateful for being present. Be grateful for being healthy. Be grateful for the pen and paper you have in your hand. Be grateful for every single thing. And then move through the things that you're going to let go of, right? Like let go. Let go of the things that you don't control, right? And like I read a book, I read The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday every single day. It's part of my journaling process. And it's like one of the things was all about the serenity prayer. And it's like, oh, I don't need any prayer.
Yeah.
But the serenity prayer is now such a tool for me, is such a tool, and it's God give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Yeah. And then you run through that list. You can't change people. You can't change time. You can't change loss. You can't change the fact that you're going to die. You know, your mortality, you can't change that, you know, and God grant me the courage to be able to change the things that I can, how I spend my time, whom I spend my time with, my habits, my attitudes. It's like embrace that. And then humbly ask, you know, for the wisdom to be able to tell the difference. And I'm like, that, and then I work out, I meditate, I do all those things. But the culmination of that really sets the stage and creates my mindset. And I can come into work and be my obnoxious self.
Now, I find that hard to believe that you're going to be obnoxious. Well, I love it. I do something similar. I've definitely been getting in. I've been meditating for years, but now I am doing more of the journaling, and I do the gratitudes at night before I go to bed, but I may start doing them in the morning too. I think I've kind of gone both ways with it. Sometimes either in the morning. Do
both.
Yeah. So
there's not enough gratitude in the world.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, if we were constantly in a state of gratitude, there'd be no negativity in the world.
Yeah.
Because we'd all be grateful. And even when we run into situations that are challenging, if you approach those with gratitude, like, thanks. Now I have an opportunity to be a better person.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. My philosophy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Or I'm grateful that I'm going to get a chance to learn something from this.
Right.
Because I know this was definitely not what I intended, but I'm sure 100%. There's a lesson for it somewhere. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, awesome. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Well, maybe one other question I have for you. What is the biggest risk that you've taken? And maybe not even necessarily in business, but maybe it's in life as well.
Well, I've taken a lot of risks, And I think back when I was younger, I took a lot of unnecessary risks. And I don't take unnecessary risks anymore because that's foolish. You know, I think it's just because I've embraced my own mortality and I realized that, hey, you know what? I'm not invincible. I'm going to die someday. Let's try to prolong it by not doing stupid stuff. So I don't do those types of risks anymore. Like I used to be an avid rock climber. I would sometimes free climb. Motorcycles. I mean, you go through the litany of stuff that I've done, and I am thankful and surprised I'm actually alive and functioning. Like I have injuries from stuff that I used to do. Those types of risks, no. But within my business, I would say that the biggest risk that I took was probably 2.5 years ago. Like we're primarily a sweetener company, right? And so we do sweeteners really, really well. But I thought that, you know, there's a bigger need. Like when you look at like sugar-free ice cream or sugar-free cookies or cookies that don't have any added sugar.
Right.
When you look at them, it's like, okay, so there's still sugar in there. Like, where's that sugar coming from? And it was coming from the inclusions. And when I say inclusions, I mean like the chips, the sprinkles, the little pieces that, you know, bring vibrance and texture and flavor to some of these products. And so I formulated a chocolate chip that was sugar-free. And I took it to a very large manufacturer and said, I'm going to need to have these chocolate chips made. And they said, you're going to need to buy 200,000 pounds of them. And I'm like, that's like almost $1 million. And they're like, yep. I'm like, that's a lot of money. So yeah, I weighed it out. I'm like, okay, so what's the worst thing that'll ever happen is I'll have a lifetime supply of chocolate chips. I love chocolate. So it's like, okay, so yeah. And will it break the bank? It could, but I felt like it worked within our business model because the chips were just a carrier for our sweeteners. And I felt like we had a customer base that would really take those chips. So I committed to it. And I'm like, Lord, help me get these chips out of here within the next year. So I don't have to like move in the back of the warehouse in my tent. And we had them sold in 19 days.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And Now
Awesome.
it's one of our, I would say that it is one of my greatest successes. So I would
Hmm.
say that the biggest risk I ever took turned out to be the biggest success
Hmm.
um, I've ever had.
Now, because I know in just in reading in general of
Hmm.
the characteristics of a good entrepreneur, they always say, that it is important for you to take risks.
Hmm.
But um, how do you, I guess, how do you know when to take it? I mean, because you obviously had to, like you said, you kind of were weighing things because
Hmm.
sometimes we can take risks and they don't pan out. And then it's like,
Right.
ugh. So how do you go about really, I guess, maybe evaluating it in order to be able to say, okay, it is worth taking this risk?
Hmm. You study the market.
Mm.
So that's going to be the case whether it's chocolate chips, whether it's dating, whether it is buying a house,
Mm.
anything that you do that requires an investment, right? An investment of yourself, an investment of your emotions, the investment of your cash.
Mm.
You evaluate, you data collect, like you survey the terrain. Like, were there any other people doing it? You know, if you did do it, what would be the threshold of what you could charge
Mm.
or what you could give, whatever it is. But you do your data collection and you just lay out the pros and cons, like Benjamin Franklin. Do it the Benjamin Franklin way, where you've got pros on one side, cons on the other, and
Mm.
you weigh it out. And if you find that the cons are way exceeding the pros, probably walk away. But if you find that the pros way exceed the cons, then you're onto something, and continue to data collect and go in as easy as you can. Like,
Mm.
I had to go in at 200,000 pounds because that was the minimum quantity.
Right.
It was the minimum. So, but go in at your threshold, right? But weigh your pros, weigh your cons, study the market, and pull the trigger.
Mm.
And will you fail? Yep, you will.
Yep.
Count on it. Count on failing. But what are you going to do with that failure? It's like, what are you going to do when you get knocked down? Doesn't matter. It's what you do when you get back up.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you're going to screw up. You're going to fail. Sometimes you're going to make the wrong decisions. But each time it's a learning experience and you can get just a little bit better.
Mm. Yeah. And I imagine also once you do sort of pull the trigger, that's when you also have to let go of the attachment to the outcome that we talked about earlier as well, and just sort of trust
Hmm.
that however this is meant to turn out, it's going to turn out. And
Hmm.
just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not just giving up, like, it's just
No.
not having the attachment to the outcome. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, so if we do things right and I've calculated things right, then this should be the outcome,
Yeah.
right? If you don't hit the outcome, tweak your action plan. If you exceed your outcome, I would say the best thing you could do at that point, celebrate.
Mm.
Celebrate big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what is your, I guess maybe the immediate future look like for you? What's the uh, 2021? What are you? Do you have any big plans for just maybe new products, or just kind of keeping the status quo going? Okay.
No, no, that's not what I do. I don't keep the status quo. 2021, I'm looking forward to 2021. 2022 has been, a crap show.
Mm.
So I'm looking forward to 2021 because I can take all of the challenges and all of the lessons that I learned in 2020
Mm.
and apply them in 2021. And so 2021, I want to thrive.
Mm.
I want to thrive. I think that everybody in 2020 has been surviving.
Yeah.
But I think 2021 is the year for us to thrive because we have put in our suffering,
Mm.
like we have been through so much. It's like
Yeah.
it's like this roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And it's like at first it's like, woo, this is fun and exciting. And then by the end of it, you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna get sick. I gotta get off this ride. I gotta get off this ride. That is 2020. So I
Yeah.
can't wait to get off of the ride. Well, I would say I have so many new products that I've developed
Mm.
that under the Guy Gone Keto brand. So we'll have, like, with Icon Foods, we're going to have a lot more inclusions. We're in negotiations with other companies for mergers and acquisitions
Mm.
and stuff, and that's going to take a life of its own. But my side hustle, the thing that that gives me the most amount of joy is my side hustle, Guy Gone Keto. Like the book, I love when people tell me, I read your book and it was so inspirational. And it's like, I practically cry when I hear that. It's like, well, thank you. And I have a line of condiments that are all keto friendly and sugar free. And I have a line of cocktail sauces that I'm calling mocker knots, because it could be a mock or not, a mock or not. And so I've got 8 different mocker knots, like cocktail syrups that are coming out that are no added sugar that people can have on keto. I mean, anybody can have it. And it's like, so I'm celebrating sober October. And so I can't have any drinks, which for me personally sucks because I love bourbon. So, but there's no bourbon in my future, not this month. But so what I've been having is mocker knots. So I've just been taking like regular soda and then adding a cocktail mix to it, like my cocktail mix. And it's like, this is amazing. Why isn't somebody selling this? This is really good. I have it all to myself, but after November 15th, people will be able to get it. So I think it'll be a big success going into 2021. I want to release more products. I want to make a greater contribution, you know, to vanquishing metabolic disease and maybe opening people's eyes to, you know, why they shouldn't be consuming so much sugar. I mean, we only need 4 grams of glucose in our entire body to function. And I've seen people drink a big gulp, like one of those massive things that's got 64 grams of sugar. And I'm like, well, your body's not metabolizing that sugar. You know what it's doing is it's storing it as lipids and, you know, like fat and stuff like that. It's like, don't do that. Yeah. You're better than that. Stop it.
Yeah. And if anything, that I do think that's one also good thing that has happened because of the pandemic is that really people are paying more attention to their health, paying attention to the foods that they eat. And so, yeah, that sounds like you've got a good plan in mind.
We'll see. It could all blow up. It could all blow up. I could end up in a tent behind the warehouse, but at least you'll know where to find me.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, if someone wanted to be able to find out about like Guy,
Guy Gone Keto.
Guy Gone Keto.
So you could just go to any of the socials, Guy Gone Keto, or you can go to guygoneketo.com. And if you're not familiar with the ketogenic diet, it's all the rage right now. All the cool kids are doing it. Check it out. Guygoneketo.com. If you want to see like what we're doing as far as like food technology and ingredients goes, just go to iconfoods.com and or Icon Foods on any of the socials and just reach out directly to me, Thom King, THOMKING. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me, ask me questions, and I always love to answer questions.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and spending it with us, and
thank you,
sharing your passion for life and business and all things low sugar, right?
Well, thank you so much, Gloria. I appreciate it. Love what you do. Keep doing it. Keep on doing it.
I intend to for certainly the foreseeable future, that's for sure.
Good. Love it.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone out there who is watching and listening. I appreciate you. And as always, I encourage you to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.